I knew I was about to die. I don't know why I was expecting my father to rescue me. I realized I've been looking for him all my life.
Okay, pay attention. This video is long, but it gives a complete summary of all the gangsters 50 Cent mentioned in that song that almost took his life. If you like this type of content, leave a like at the beginning, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and hit the bell to receive many well-edited and summarized rap videos like this one. Now, check this out. Ghetto Qu'ran is a song by 50 Cent that leaked and became a street hit even before its release because he mentioned several legendary drug dealers from Queens, where he grew up. Despite seeming like a 50 Cent style tribute, the guys didn't like it much. One of them even sent someone to kill him. So, in today's video, I'm going to show these gangsters that 50 Cent mentioned in this song that almost cost him his life. In this song, he mentioned at least 20 names of gangsters. The rapper started by talking about the Supreme Team, the gang that dominated the South Side, his area. 50 Cent praises Supreme in the song, but says the following about Prince: Supreme didn't like it, nor did Prince. As everyone knows, Supreme allegedly hired Daryl Baum, Mike Tyson's best friend, to shoot 50 Cent in 2000. He took 9 bullets but survived. Supreme is Prince Miller's uncle, and both were leaders of the Supreme Team. This gang emerged alongside hip-hop, and the first international rappers of the genre came from Queens. Supreme supported these rappers before they became hip-hop stars, and in the community, he was the guy who helped people and took care of business, while Prince was the aggressive and killer one. When Supreme was arrested in '87, Prince took over the leadership. In the same year, 8 deaths were linked to the gang, and Prince had to flee. With Supreme in prison, the gang was left without its 2 leaders. When Supreme was released, he decided to enter the music industry. At the same time, Prince Miller and other Supreme Team members were being tried. Prince was sentenced to life in prison in '93 and remains incarcerated to this day. After a brief stint out of prison, Supreme met Irv Gotti and his brother, who wanted to start a record label, while he wanted to produce a movie. Supreme allegedly invested in Murder Incorporated Records, Irv Gotti and his brother's label, which dominated hip-hop in the late '90s and 2000s with Ja Rule and Ashanti. Supreme even appears in Ja Rule's video, Murder for Life. The beef between Ja Rule and 50 Cent was also one of the reasons Supreme wanted to take the rapper's life. Through Irv Gotti, Supreme fulfilled his dream of being the executive producer of the movie Partners for Life. But this association did not yield good results. Everything fell apart when the FBI raided the label in 2003, suspecting it was funded with Supreme's money. It is believed that Supreme laundered at least $1 million in the label, and after that, the legendary Murder Incorporated never recovered. Now, I'm going to talk about the other gangsters. This is one of the rumors that circulated in the streets of Queens between Fat Cat and Pap Mason. Fat Cat is the most legendary crime figure in Queens, and Pap Mason was a bloodthirsty gangster who led the Bebo's gang. Fat Cat was the biggest gangster in South Jamaica, Queens, dominating the streets by selling cocaine and heroin. Pap Mason started as a security guard before becoming a gang leader. In 1985, the police raided Fat Cat's base, and in his absence, Pap Mason was in the streets with his gang known for violence. But it fell apart for him too. From prison, Pap Mason ordered the killing of a police officer in Queens who was guarding a witness's house. On February 26, '88, Edward Byrne, a rookie cop and the son of a cop, was shot dead in South Jamaica, Queens. The case caused a national stir, and presidential candidate George Bush used this death during his campaign, displaying Byrne's badge everywhere. This crime ended the party for the Queens gangsters, whom you'll meet throughout the video, so stay until the end. In '93, Pap Mason was sentenced to life in prison. The trial took time because he was considered insane, unable to stand trial. In prison, Fat Cat turned state's witness and confessed to ordering the murder of his childhood friend, his girlfriend with whom he had a child, and his parole officer. He was granted parole in 2022 and was transferred to federal custody. Pap Mason continues to serve his sentence and is a popular gangster, already mentioned in several hip-hop songs. In the song, 50 Cent mentions the legendary Bimmy, who was also part of the Supreme team. He was a profitable dealer and had a foot in the hip-hop industry. Bimmy was present from the beginning of hip-hop, witnessing the rise of Def Jam and often being seen with Run DMC, even performing with them on TV. However, his street roots were strong, and when things got dangerous for him, Bimmy fled New York to Atlanta, where he lived with Haitian Jack, a friend of Tupac, and later with Bobby Brown, where they became great friends. Bimmy even dated Bobby Brown's sister, or Whitney Houston's sister. They lived together. When Bimmy tried to return to New York, he was captured. Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston paid his $2 million bail, showing the respect he had. Bimmy worked with several artists from Def Jam, producing some songs for them and being credited on albums by LL Cool J and Slick Rick. He produced the intro for LL Cool J's 8th album and several tracks on Slick Rick's 4th album, including one of my favorites. Bimmy also managed Waka Flocka Flame, the daughter of his sister, the legendary Deborah Anthony, known as Deb, who was a real ex-gangster. She made a big splash in the music world, discovering artists like Gucci Mane, the father of trap, and Nicki Minaj, the most famous rapper in the world, as well as French Montana. She was the one who invested in them to achieve success. Besides Bimmy, 50 Cent mentions Joe, the brother of Bimmy and Deb. Joe was also part of the Supreme team, and currently, his son sings on Gucci Mane's label. Another name mentioned by 50 Cent is E-Money Baggs, who, although not very successful in rap, was always close to big names. He was friends with Notorious B.I.G. but had an even stronger connection with Tupac and his crew, Thug Life. His biggest partner was Prodigy from Mobb Deep, who revealed in his book that E-Money Baggs accidentally killed Black just when the bullet was meant for Supreme. This incident occurred, and in 2001, Supreme avenged his friend's death by ordering the killing of E-Money Baggs. The film, produced by Supreme, begins with a dedication to Black Just, an original member of the Supreme team, who was an inspiration to 50 Cent, a frequent visitor of his boxing gym financed by Supreme. Black Just was friends with rappers like Nas and had worked as security for Def Jam artists. Another name mentioned by 50 Cent is Tyron Tata, a legendary Queens drug dealer, possibly also from the Supreme team, best known for having a child with Peppa from the female hip-hop group Salt-N-Pepa. Tata's real name is Barry Riddick, and he spent a good amount of time in prison, always involved in trouble. In a song called Fuck You from 2002, 50 Cent mentions Tata, as well as Supreme, as one of those responsible for the shooting in which he was shot 9 times. Tata was also a suspect in the death of Jam Master Jay after his fingerprints were found in a car near the crime scene, but it led to nothing. In 2022, he was found dead in his car, supposedly due to a fentanyl overdose. When 50 Cent mentions Chess, he is referring to Chess Slim Williams. Chess, known as Slim, was a former bank robber who carried out dozens of robberies in New York. He had a high-level robbery crew, and when he was caught, he was sentenced to almost 100 years, which was eventually reduced to 15 years because he studied in prison to reduce his sentence. When he got out, he founded Black Hand Entertainment, which initially managed Foxy Brown and also handled the early career of 50 Cent. Things soured between him and 50 Cent after the rapper mentioned Chess in a song where he named several infamous drug dealers from Queens. Slim didn't like that. In the song Many Men, 50 Cent revealed the reason for their feud, saying that Slim switched sides and let people attack him. Chess was destined to be one of the leaders of Death Row East, but unfortunately, Tupac died and Suge was imprisoned, so the label never materialized on the East Coast. The rhymes at the end of the second verse talk about the drug dealer Thomas Mickens, known as Tommy Montana. This man controlled a multi-million-dollar empire that started in Queens and expanded to the streets of Harlem and Atlantic City. His lifestyle was similar to the character on whom his nickname was based. He had the life that everyone in Queens dreamed of. Tommy Montana, a fan of the movie Scarface, had a fleet of luxury cars, helicopters, yachts, everything. He had several businesses in different neighborhoods, with his name Montana displayed on all the storefronts. When 50 Cent mentions Laurenton, he's referring to a middle-class neighborhood in Queens where Tommy lived like a king. His glory days were cut short after a cop's death when the police began arresting all the drug dealers in Queens, and he was one of them. In 1989, he was sentenced to 35 years, lost all his assets, paid several fines, and went completely bankrupt. After being released from prison in 2008, he created the Tommy Experience, a health and wellness program. Nowadays, he works in this field, giving fitness classes to the elderly. 50 Cent mentions Rich Porter and Alpo Martinez. These two, along with AZ Faison, a former New York crime boss who became a rapper in the group Mob Style, are the main characters in the movie Paid in Full, which hadn't been released when 50 Cent made the song. Rich Porter was well known on the streets of Harlem, always dressed in stylish clothes and driving expensive cars, but his luck changed, and he was arrested. After that, AZ entered the drug world and started leading. When Rich Porter was released, he already had a job lined up, and Alpo Martinez joined the group as well. Together, the three became the biggest drug dealers in Harlem in the 80s. If you watch the movie, you would understand the whole story of this trio. On January 3, 1990, Rich Porter was shot and killed multiple times while still grieving his brother's death, who was murdered by their uncle less than a month earlier. It was Alpo Martinez who was accused of the crime and also of 10 other murders. He was sentenced in 91 to 5 life sentences. However, he became an informant and was released in 2015 after testifying against his former associates. His sentence was reduced to 35 years, of which he served over 20. In October 2021, he was shot and killed in Harlem while sitting in his car. All the audio of the trio in Harlem was depicted in the movie Paid in Full. The rapper Cameron portrays him in the movie. Ronnie Bump was the gangster who paved the way for the criminals who lived through the golden age of crime in Queens in the 80s. It was Bump who took the lead in the new phase of the legendary Pop Freeman's gang, the first black gangster in Queens. Bump was already running crime in Queens before Fat Cat, Supreme, or anyone else. He was the first successful gangster in the era when crime dominated Queens. He lived like a king, with nearly 10 drug dealing points in Queens, more than 100 people working for him, businesses in other cities, and he supplied drugs to other cities and new dealers in Queens, like Fat Cat, who was mentored by him. This is a summary about Bump. 50 Cent mentions the Collie Brothers, formed by Wall, the head of the organization, and his brother Duke. Wall is known as one of the founders of drug trafficking in South Jamaica, Queens. Initially, Wall and Fat Cat had many conflicts, their organizations rivaled, and there were shootouts between them in the past, but Supreme managed to bring peace between them. The dealers in Queens had something called the Round Table, where they would meet to discuss any conflicts between gangs. This helped maintain peace, and the Queens dealers enjoyed parties together. There is a classic photo of Supreme with Curtis Blow and Wall Collie. Unlike Supreme, Fat Cat, and his friends, Wall didn't spend much time in prison. He was accused of beating a guy to death, but managed to get away with it. Today, he is alive and well, and he was known in the past as Ghost. Many believe that the main character in the series Power was inspired by him. 50 Cent was one of the producers and directors of the series. He was the last of the big names from Queens to be imprisoned in 2012 at the age of 51. When 50 Cent mentions Pretty Tony and Lance, he is referring to the Furtado brothers from the Furtado Brothers organization. This was the first gang in Queens to make way for notorious dealers. The gang lasted for decades, earning $50 million every 6 months. Many consider Pretty Tony to be responsible for the rise of Queens, not Bump or Fat Cat. In 1995, the organization fell at a time when they were making $15 million a week. Compared to Fat Cat and Supreme, who received life sentences, the Furtado brothers were imprisoned for only 10 years. Today, they are religious, have a foundation called King of Kings, write books, and engage in various positive activities. When 50 Cent mentions Righteous, he is referring to the head of Prince's bodyguard team in the Supreme team. This man, known as Puerto Rican Righteous, was one of the gang's main enforcers and committed the worst crimes of the Supreme team. He played a key role in Prince's most famous crime, luring Colombians to steal drugs, then killing them and making the bodies disappear. Righteous is best known for ratting out the Supreme Team to save his own skin, claiming he did it because Prince took his wife while he was in prison. After signing the deal, he served a few years and was released as an informant. Well, we've come to the end of another video. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content. Leave your comment and see you soon.